Knowledge is the true currency of civilization, Min-Ki agreed. While others saw us as primitive, we studied them. Every surveillance mission sent to Earth gave us another opportunity to learn, to understand. A holographic display materialized between them, showing the Galactic Council's central worlds. We know the Council's strengths and weaknesses. We understand their politics, their fears, their ambitions. The question is, do you understand what would happen if you reported our true nature? Young Ho had spent the last several hours considering exactly that. War, he said simply. The Council would see Earth as a threat that had deceived them for centuries. They would never accept such a powerful hidden player in their sphere of influence. And yet, Min-Ki responded, gesturing to another display showing Earth's hidden fleets. Any attempt at military action would be devastating for all sides. We don't want that. Despite our preparations, despite our strength, we genuinely desire peace. A new figure entered the garden. Admiral Kyung-min, moving with the grace of someone long accustomed to zero gravity. She joined them at the floating table, accepting a cup of tea. "Show him," she said to Min-Ki. The diplomatic chief nodded, and the garden's walls became transparent, revealing they were actually inside a massive space station. Below them, Young Ho could see what appeared to be a construction project of staggering scale. "What you're seeing," Min-Ki explained, "is our latest defensive installation. We call it the Shield of Dawn. When completed, it will be capable of protecting not just Earth, but any world within 50 light-years from the threat we've detected." Young Ho leaned forward, studying the massive structure. "You're not just building weapons, you're creating defensive systems to protect others." "Finally, he understands," Admiral Kyung-min said with approval. "We didn't hide our strength out of fear or aggression. We hid it because we needed time to prepare, not just for ourselves, but for everyone." The displays shifted again, showing what appeared to be sensor readings from deep space. Young Ho's diplomatic training included basic threat assessment, and what he saw made his blood run cold. "How long?" he asked quietly. 20 years, perhaps less," Min-Ki replied. "They're coming from beyond the galactic rim. The Council's outer sensors haven't detected them yet. They're not looking in the right way. But they're coming. And now you understand our choice," Admiral Kyung-min added. "We could reveal ourselves, try to warn everyone, but that would lead to panic, conflict, and disunity at the very time we need to stand together. Or we could continue our work in secret, preparing defenses that might save not just humanity, but all sentient life in this sector of space." Young Ho sat back, his mind racing through the implications. His report to the Council wouldn't just reveal Earth's deception. It could potentially derail preparations for a threat that could destroy everything. "There is a third option," Min-Ki said gently. "You and your crew could join us. Help us prepare. Be part of something greater than just one civilization's survival." Through the transparent walls, Young Ho watched as massive ships moved silently through space, carrying components for the Shield of Dawn. Each vessel represented technology that could have made Earth the dominant power in the galaxy. Instead, they had chosen to hide, to prepare, to protect. "The choice before you isn't just about war or peace," Admiral Kyung-min said, rising from the table. "It's about the future of all intelligent life in our galaxy. Choose wisely, Diplomat Young Ho. We'll await your decision." As they left him alone in the garden, Young Ho looked down at his reflection in the tea's surface. The fate of far more than just his mission now rested on what he would recommend to his captain. Around him, Earth's impossible garden continued its ethereal dance, a testament to what humanity had achieved in secret and what they might yet accomplish if given the chance. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council gleamed with ancient splendor, its crystalline walls reflecting the light of 1,000 distant stars. Captain Daeho stood at the speaker's podium, his heart pounding, but his voice steady as he delivered the most important report of his career. Behind him, Admiral Kyung-min and the Earth delegation waited in quiet dignity. Their uniforms, no longer disguised to appear primitive, displayed subtle technologies that made even the most advanced council members whisper among themselves. Honorable Council, Daho began. 2 months ago, my ship undertook what we believed would be a routine surveillance mission of Earth. What we discovered has changed everything we thought we knew about humanity. The Council Chamber's displays activated, showing the moment when Earth's hidden fleet had revealed itself. Gasps echoed through the chamber as thousands of advanced ships materialized from seemingly empty space. For centuries, Daho continued, we believed we were observing a developing civilization, still struggling to master basic spaceflight. We were wrong. Humanity had achieved technological advances far beyond our understanding, while maintaining the greatest deception in galactic history. Admiral Kyung-min stepped forward, her presence commanding immediate attention. The council members leaned forward in their seats, many seeing the human in person for the first time. We hid not out of fear, she declared, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber, but out of necessity. Earth's first contact with alien life was violent, an invasion that nearly destroyed us. From that day, we chose a different path. The displays showed the rapid advancement of human technology, carefully hidden from prying eyes. Space stations disguised as debris, shipyards concealed in dimensional pockets, weapons that could reshape reality itself. While you watched our primitive rockets and celebrated our small steps into space, the Admiral continued, we built something unprecedented. Not just weapons or ships, but a shield for all sentient life in our sector of space. The chamber erupted in discussions as images of the Shield of Dawn appeared. Even incomplete, its scale and complexity were staggering. One of the eldest council members rose, his voice sharp with concern. Why reveal yourselves now? Why risk everything you've built in secret? Daho watched as Admiral Kyung-min's expression grew grave. Because what's coming demands unity, not secrecy. Our long-range sensors have detected a threat approaching from beyond the galactic rim, a threat that will require all of us working together to survive. The displays shifted to show the sensor readings. Even the most skeptical council members fell silent as they understood the implications. We come before you not as conquerors or deceivers, Kyung-min declared, but as allies. Earth's technology, our resources, our knowledge. We offer them freely in the cause of mutual survival. Another council member spoke up. How can we trust you after centuries of deception? Captain Daho stepped forward again. My crew and I asked ourselves the same question. But we've seen not just humanity's power, but their purpose. They could have dominated the galaxy at any time. Instead, they chose to protect it. The chamber's lights dimmed as a final display appeared. A real-time view of Earth's solar system, no longer hidden behind veils of deception. Massive fleet formations moved with precise coordination. Construction projects of impossible scale continued their work. And at the center of it all, Earth itself shone like a jewel, finally revealing its true nature to the galaxy. The time for hiding is over, Admiral Kyung-min concluded. Earth stands ready to join the Galactic Council as full members, to share our knowledge, and to face the coming darkness together. We offer not just our strength, but our commitment to protecting all sentient life. As Daho watched the council members begin their deliberations, he thought about how far they had all come. His simple surveillance mission had uncovered not just humanity's greatest secret, but perhaps the galaxy's greatest hope for survival. Would you like some food? Ethan asked, holding out a bowl filled with a strange, porridge-like substance. It didn't look like anything Caliph had ever seen, but she didn't care. Her hunger overpowered her reluctance, and she nodded. Yes, thank you, she said, taking the bowl from him. She sat down on a log near the fire, savoring the warmth of the meal. It didn't taste like much, but it was filling, and that was all that mattered. Ethan sat across from her, watching her quietly as she ate. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The forest around them seemed alive, but in a peaceful way. Caliph felt a sense of calm that she hadn't felt in a long time. Her world had always been filled with tension, fights, survival, distrust. But here, in Ethan's quiet camp, it felt different. There was no pressure, no immediate danger, no expectations. It was a strange feeling. She had never had the luxury of resting without fear. After a few moments, Ethan spoke again. I know this might seem sudden, but do you want to talk about what happened? About your tribe? Caliph froze for a moment, her spoon halfway to her mouth. She hadn't expected him to bring it up so soon. Her exile was a painful subject, one that she didn't like to think about, let alone talk about. She had been cast out, betrayed, and left to survive alone. The pain of it still lingered deep inside her, and she wasn't sure if she was ready to share that part of her life with anyone, especially not with a human. But something about Ethan made her want to open up. His eyes weren't filled with judgment or pity. There was just quiet understanding in them, as if he knew what it was like to suffer. Perhaps it was because of that she felt a small flicker of hope, a tiny voice inside her urging her to trust him. I was exiled. Caliph began slowly, her voice soft. I was cast out by my own people, my tribe. They didn't want me anymore. She paused, her eyes focused on the ground as the words escaped her lips. It was the first time she had said it out loud, and it stung. My powers, they're too dangerous for them. So they decided it was better for me to leave. Ethan didn't interrupt. He simply listened, his gaze steady and compassionate. Caliph took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. This was harder than she thought it would be. They thought I was a threat. They feared what I could do. I see, Ethan said quietly, his voice filled with understanding. That must have been really tough. Caliph nodded, a lump forming in her throat. It was. But that's not the worst part. The worst part is that I had to leave everything behind. My home, my family, my entire life. And I'm still not sure what I'm supposed to do now. Ethan seemed to think for a moment, his eyes thoughtful. You've had to carry all that alone for so long, haven't you? Caliph didn't answer at first. She wasn't sure how to respond. She had always kept her emotions bottled up, afraid that showing weakness would only get her hurt again. But in that moment, in the quiet of the forest, she felt something shift inside her. Maybe, just maybe, it was okay to not have all the answers. Maybe it was okay to let herself be vulnerable, just for a moment. Yes, Caliph said softly, her voice barely a whisper. I've been alone for so long. I don't know how to trust anyone anymore. Ethan nodded slowly, as if he understood exactly what she was going through. I can't pretend to know what it's like for you, but I do know that you don't have to carry this alone. You don't have to do this by yourself. Caliph looked up at him, meeting his gaze. There was sincerity in his eyes, and for the first time in a long while, she felt a small spark of hope. Maybe he was right. Maybe she didn't have to keep running from her past. Maybe it was okay to trust someone again. I don't know if I can trust anyone, she said, her voice trembling slightly. But I'll try. For now. Ethan smiled, a reassuring, kind smile that made her feel a little less alone. That's all anyone can ask for. Trust takes time. You don't have to rush it. Just take things one step at a time. Caliph took a deep breath, feeling the weight on her chest ease just a little. Trusting Ethan was still a big step, but maybe, just maybe, she was ready to take that first step. The Valorian charged, moving with lightning speed. Nathan barely had time to react as the alien's long arms reached out to grab him. But Nathan was quick on his feet. He sidestepped the attack, narrowly avoiding the Valorian's grasp, and landed a quick punch to the opponent's side. The blow landed, but the Valorian recovered immediately, spinning around and aiming a kick at Nathan's chest. Nathan was ready. He blocked the kick with his arm and twisted his body to dodge the follow-up strike. With a burst of speed, he lunged forward, tackling the Valorian to the ground. The crowd roared in approval as the two fighters struggled for dominance, each trying to pin the other. For a moment, Nathan could feel his muscles screaming in pain. The Valorian's strength was impressive, but Nathan refused to back down. He used every ounce of his training and experience to fight back. Finally, with a move he had perfected during his military training, Nathan used the Valorian's momentum against him, flipping the alien onto his back and pinning him to the ground. The buzzer sounded, signaling the end of the match. Nathan stood victorious, panting for breath, but feeling a surge of pride. He had done it. He had beaten the odds. The crowd erupted in applause, and Nathan glanced up at the stands. But there, standing at the front of the audience, was Princess Valeria. Her eyes were cold, as usual, but there was a flicker of something in them, a hint of curiosity. She wasn't smiling, but Nathan didn't expect her to. Her gaze lingered on him for a moment longer than necessary before she turned away, signaling that the match was over and it was time for the next challenge. Nathan didn't let the moment distract him. There was still much to prove. He knew that the first challenge was just a warm-up. The real tests were still ahead, and he would need every ounce of strength, wit, and determination he had to get through them. As the next few rounds progressed, Nathan faced more challengers, each one stronger and faster than the last. Zorak, the Zorathian warrior, was a beast in combat. His sheer size and strength made him a formidable opponent, but Nathan was quick to notice that Zorak lacked the agility and strategy that Nathan had learned over the years. While Zorak relied on brute force, Nathan relied on his mind, using every trick he had to outmaneuver the giant warrior. The crowd gasped as Zorak, despite his overwhelming strength, struggled to keep up with Nathan's quick movements. Nathan used his smaller frame to his advantage, darting around Zorak's slow swings and landing blows when the warrior left himself open. Finally, with a swift punch to the jaw, Nathan sent Zorak crashing to the ground, much to the disbelief of the audience. Once again, the crowd erupted in cheers. Nathan's chest heaved with exhaustion, but he felt a surge of pride. He had proven that he wasn't just an underdog. He was a fighter, capable of taking on the galaxy's best. The final test was about to begin. It would be the toughest challenge yet, the one that would determine who would earn the right to stand before Princess Valeria. It was a test of endurance, intelligence, and the ability to think under pressure. Nathan had seen this test before, and he knew it would be brutal. But he wasn't afraid. He had come this far. There was no turning back now. The tension in the air was palpable as the final challenge loomed before Nathan Carter. The Galactic Summit was nearing its climax, and only a few suitors remained standing. Nathan, exhausted but determined, knew that this final test was unlike any he had faced so far. It wasn't just about strength anymore. It was about everything he had learned over the past few days: his resourcefulness, his survival instincts, and his ability to think on his feet. The announcement came through the loudspeakers, its voice booming across the arena. "Attention, suitors. The final challenge will begin immediately. This will be a test of your ability to complete a dangerous mission in an unknown environment. You will be sent to a hostile world where you will face deadly creatures, hazardous terrain, and environmental dangers. Your objective is to retrieve a rare artifact from a crashed ship and return it to the starting point. The first to complete the mission will be declared the winner." Nathan's heart skipped a beat. This was it, the ultimate test. There would be no room for mistakes. The stakes had never been higher. The artifact, a mysterious object of unknown power, was said to be one of the most sought-after treasures in the galaxy. But the mission wasn't going to be easy. The planet they were being sent to was known for its unpredictable weather and dangerous wildlife. The suitors were led to a series of transport pods. One by one, they were loaded into their assigned ships, and the countdown began. Nathan strapped himself into his seat, feeling the hum of the pod's engines beneath him. Outside, he could see the swirling mass of stars as the station's gravity well pulled them into the unknown. As the transport pod blasted through the atmosphere and into the depths of space, Nathan's mind raced. He had been trained for all kinds of missions: covert operations, rescue missions, and search and rescue operations. But this was different. This wasn't about military tactics or strategy. This was about surviving the unknown, trusting his instincts, and using every bit of the human resourcefulness that had brought Earth this far in the galaxy. The pod shook as it entered the planet's atmosphere. Nathan could feel the heat of re-entry through his seat. His body tensed, but he kept his breathing steady. The ship's navigation system guided them down toward the surface, where the terrain was rough and unfamiliar. Finally, with a jolt, the transport pod landed. The hatch opened with a hiss of air, and Nathan stepped out onto the alien soil. The air was thick, the sky above painted in shades of orange and red. The planet was hostile, its environment designed to test anyone who dared to set foot on it. The ground beneath Nathan's boots was uneven, covered with jagged rocks and strange, glowing plants that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly light. Nathan quickly surveyed his surroundings. There were towering cliffs in the distance, and a thick jungle stretched out in all directions. He knew that the artifact, the key to winning this challenge, was somewhere deep in the jungle. But finding it wouldn't be easy. The planet was home to a number of deadly creatures, and Nathan wasn't about to underestimate them. As he began his trek into the jungle, the first challenge revealed itself. A loud rustling noise came from behind him, followed by a growl that sent a chill down his spine. He spun around, his hand instinctively reaching for his blaster, but he remembered the rules. No weapons were allowed in this final challenge. A massive creature, nearly 8 feet tall, emerged from the underbrush. It was a hulking beast with armored scales covering its body, and its glowing red eyes locked onto Nathan. Its jaws were lined with sharp teeth, and its muscular limbs moved with alarming speed. It let out a deafening roar, charging at Nathan with terrifying force. Nathan's heart raced, but he didn't panic. His training kicked in. He sprinted toward a nearby tree, using it as cover as the beast barreled toward him. The ground shook with every step the creature took. Nathan knew he couldn't outrun it, and he certainly couldn't overpower it with brute force. But he had something the creature didn't: strategy. As the beast lunged toward him, Nathan dove to the side, narrowly avoiding its claws. The creature's momentum carried it past him, giving him just enough time to roll to his feet and find a weak point. He grabbed a nearby rock and hurled it toward the beast's face. The creature flinched, giving Nathan the opening he needed. With a quick leap, he climbed a tree, using the height to his advantage. The creature roared in frustration, but it couldn't reach him. Nathan had bought himself a few moments. From his perch, he surveyed the area, looking for the next step in his journey. He knew the artifact was nearby, but it wasn't going to be easy to get to it. He waited for the creature to move on, keeping still and quiet in the tree. As the minutes passed, the jungle seemed to come alive with the sounds of alien wildlife. Strange calls from unseen creatures, the rustling of leaves, and the occasional snap of a twig. Nathan knew that this world was alive with danger, and he couldn't afford to let his guard down. After what felt like hours, the creature finally wandered off into the jungle, disappearing into the dense foliage. Nathan descended from the tree, his heart still racing. He knew he had to keep moving. The artifact wasn't going to find itself. The jungle grew darker as he pressed on, and soon the thick canopy above blocked out much of the light. He switched on his flashlight, cutting through the darkness as he navigated through the dense underbrush. The ground was uneven, and he had to watch every step to avoid tripping on the hidden roots and rocks. After a long trek, Nathan finally came to a clearing. In the center stood a large, ruined ship, its once pristine hull now covered in moss and vines. This was it. The artifact was inside. As he approached the ship, Nathan's instincts went on high alert. Something didn't feel right. The ship's interior was dark and quiet, but he could sense movement from the shadows. He took a deep breath, preparing himself for whatever danger lay ahead. Inside the wreckage, the air was thick with dust. The walls were lined with strange symbols, written in a language that Nathan didn't recognize. The wreck had been here for a long time, abandoned and forgotten. But there, in the center of the room, sat the artifact, an ancient, glowing crystal encased in a force field. Nathan approached cautiously. His training told him to be careful, to look for traps, and to think before making any move. He studied the force field carefully, looking for any signs of how to deactivate it. His fingers hovered over a nearby control panel, but just as he was about to press a button, he heard a growl from behind him. He spun around, only to find himself face to face with another creature, a smaller but no less dangerous predator. This one was fast, with claws like daggers and eyes that glowed in the dark. Nathan knew that this mission was no longer just about retrieving the artifact. It was about survival. He had to think fast, fight smart, and outlast the dangers of this alien world. The once quiet atmosphere of the Galactic Summit had turned into something tense. As Nathan made his way through the dense jungle, risking everything for a single chance at winning the final challenge, his mind kept circling back to the moment he first laid eyes on Princess Sarah. She had been different from everyone else, cold, distant, and unmoved by all the other suitors who had fallen over themselves to impress her. Yet here he was, risking his life on a dangerous mission to prove that he could be the one to break through that icy exterior. Nathan's heart raced as he approached the artifact, the final piece of the puzzle. But his focus wasn't just on the prize anymore. It had shifted toward the princess. The way she had looked at him with both curiosity and challenge in her eyes stirred something deep within him. He knew that winning the competition was more than just an accomplishment. It was his chance to show her who he truly was, to show her that beneath his human exterior, he was someone worth respecting. As Nathan reached the artifact, he felt the tension that had built up in him over the course of the mission begin to melt away. He had made it. He had fought through the jungle, survived the wild creatures, and conquered every obstacle in his path. The artifact was now within his grasp, glowing faintly in the darkened ruins. But as he carefully reached for it, he suddenly felt a shiver crawl up his spine. Something was wrong. The air around him grew colder. A crackling sound filled the air, followed by an eerie silence. Nathan's instincts kicked in, warning him that someone, was near. His hand hovered over the artifact, but he didn't dare touch it just yet. He quickly turned around, looking for the source of the disturbance. From the shadows of the ruined ship, a figure emerged. It was Princess Sarah herself. Her presence was commanding, and the aura around her seemed to shimmer with power. Her eyes, normally cold and unyielding, were now filled with something different. A strange warmth, perhaps even curiosity. She stepped forward with grace, her every movement fluid and almost hypnotic. "Do you always take such risks, Nathan Carter?" Sarah's voice was smooth, but there was an edge to it, one that suggested she wasn't just here for small talk. Her gaze locked with his, and for a brief moment, Nathan wondered if this was all part of another test. "I didn't come here to take risks, Princess. I came here to prove something," Nathan replied, his voice steady but with an underlying fire. He stood tall, despite the fatigue from the mission. "I came here to show you that I'm not just some human trying to win your favor. I'm someone who can stand by your side." Sarah's eyes narrowed slightly, studying him. "Prove it," she said simply. Her words were a challenge, and Nathan could feel it in his bones. It was as if she were testing him, searching for some hidden strength that had yet to be revealed. Before Nathan could respond, the air shifted again. A low, menacing growl echoed from the depths of the jungle. The ground trembled beneath their feet as something large and powerful moved toward them. Sarah's eyes flicked to the jungle's edge, her hand instinctively reaching for the weapon at her side. Nathan immediately stepped in front of her, placing himself between Sarah and the threat. "You don't have to protect me," Sarah said, her tone surprising him. "I can handle myself." Nathan glanced back at her, his protective instinct kicking in. "I'm not doing it for you, Princess. I'm doing it for me." He grinned, feeling the surge of confidence, knowing that this moment was his test too. "I've got a score to settle with this jungle." Without waiting for a response, Nathan lunged forward, sprinting into the undergrowth where the growls had come from. Sarah followed closely behind, her speed almost unnatural as she kept pace with him. Together, they moved as one, like a well-coordinated team. Nathan's human endurance and strength, combined with Sarah's alien agility and precision. They reached the clearing where the beast, a massive predator, was waiting. Its glowing eyes locked onto them, its jaws snapping as it prepared to charge. Nathan wasted no time. He threw himself to the side, narrowly avoiding the creature's strike as it lunged at him. He rolled to his feet and quickly grabbed a large stone, hurling it toward the creature's face. Zara's movements were a blur. With a quick series of movements, she took the beast down with precision. She slashed through its thick hide, her weapon flashing as she expertly disarmed it. In mere seconds, the creature was no longer a threat. Nathan watched in awe as Sarah's skills took over, and for the first time, he realized just how much she was capable of. The princess was not just powerful, she was a force to be reckoned with. As the dust settled, Nathan stood there, staring at her in disbelief. Sarah didn't even break a sweat. She turned to face him, her expression unreadable. But there was something in her eyes, a flicker of respect, perhaps even admiration. "You handled yourself well, human," Sarah said, her tone softer than before. Nathan smiled, his confidence growing. "We make a good team." Sarah tilted her head slightly, her gaze lingering on him for a moment longer. Perhaps. The two of them stood in the clearing, the jungle around them still and quiet once again. Nathan could feel the weight of their situation. The stakes were high, but something had shifted between them. The princess was no longer the cold, unapproachable figure who had rejected every suitor. She was beginning to see him in a new light, and that made Nathan feel like he had finally cracked through her icy shell. "I never thought I would see the day when a human could impress me," Sarah said, her voice thoughtful. "But you've done it, Nathan. You've shown me that humans are not as weak as we once thought." Nathan nodded, his eyes never leaving hers. "There's more to us than meets the eye, princess, and I'm just getting started." Sarah studied him for a moment longer before her lips curled into a faint smile. It was subtle, but it was there, and for Nathan, it felt like a victory. The princess's walls were starting to crumble, piece by piece. But as he moved to take the artifact once more, Sarah held out a hand to stop him. "Wait." Nathan paused, turning back to her. "What is it?" "There's one more thing you need to prove, Nathan," she said, her voice more serious now. "If you truly want to win my heart, you'll have to face your greatest fear. Only then will you truly understand what it means to be worthy of me." Nathan's brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" Zara's eyes glinted with a challenge. "The final test, Nathan, is not the artifact. It's what happens next. If you can face the darkness within you and come out the other side, only then will I believe you are ready." Nathan took a deep breath. He didn't know what kind of darkness Sarah was talking about, but he knew one thing for certain: he would face it. He had already overcome every physical challenge thrown at him. But this was personal, and if it was the key to winning Zara's heart, he would face it head-on. "I'm ready," he said, his voice steady. Sarah gave a small nod, a flicker of something almost like approval in her eyes. "Then let the final challenge begin." The darkened skies above the planets seemed to ripple as a strange energy filled the air. Nathan could feel it in the pit of his stomach, a heavy weight pressing down on him. Sarah, the powerful and untouchable princess, was standing beside him, her expression unreadable as they faced the final challenge. This time, there would be no beasts to fight, no physical obstacles to overcome. It was just them, alone in this foreign world, about to face something far more dangerous than any jungle or predator. Zara's eyes bore into him, her gaze both intense and calculating. The princess had always been one to reject all those who came before her, including the mightiest warriors and most charming suitors. Yet here Nathan was, a simple human, standing beside her in the heart of an alien world. He had passed all her tests, overcome every trial. But now he faced the greatest challenge of all, proving his worthiness not just through his actions, but through his heart. You've proven yourself in every way possible, Nathan. Zara's voice was soft, almost distant. You've shown strength, skill, and determination. But now you must face the truth. Nathan furrowed his brow, unsure of what she meant. His heart was still pounding from the last test, the one where they had to fight together to survive against the monstrous creature. What truth? He asked, his voice steady but laced with curiosity. Zara turned to him, her eyes flickering with something like hesitation. For the first time, she didn't seem so sure of herself. The truth of who you are. The truth of what you can truly offer me and what you can't. She paused, as if weighing her words. I've pushed you to your limits, Nathan, and you've passed every challenge. But there's one thing I still don't understand. Nathan looked at her, confused. What don't you understand? She took a slow, deep breath. I spent my entire life surrounded by power, wealth, and influence. I've seen thousands of beings from all corners of the galaxy, each vying for my favor, each believing that they are the one who can conquer me. But you, her voice faltered for a moment. You're different. Nathan's heart skipped a beat. What do you mean? Zara turned to face him completely, her expression finally softening for the first time since he had met her. I've always rejected everyone because I thought I needed someone as strong as I am. Someone who could match my power, my intellect, my position. But you? She paused again, almost as if the words were hard for her to say. You've shown me that maybe I was wrong. Nathan took a step closer, his voice gentle yet filled with sincerity. I'm not like them. Zara, I'm not here to win you over with power or status. I'm here because I believe in us. I believe we can be something together that's real. Zara's eyes flashed with a mix of emotions. There was doubt, confusion, and deep beneath it all, a flicker of something she had never allowed herself to feel before. Hope. But before she could respond, the ground beneath them shook once more, and the air crackled with a sudden, overwhelming force. A voice, cold and mechanical, echoed across the clearing. It was a voice that filled the air with an unnatural chill, one that sent a shiver up Nathan's spine. Princess Zara, the voice boomed. Your actions have not gone unnoticed. The time has come for you to face the consequences of your choices. Nathan looked up, his heart racing. What's going on? Who's speaking? Zara's face hardened, her hand instinctively going to her side to grip the hilt of her weapon. The Galactic Council, she whispered, her voice tense with barely concealed anger. They've come for me. From the shadows, an imposing figure stepped forward. An android, towering and cloaked in metallic armor. Its eyes glowed with an eerie, otherworldly light. You have been a disappointment, Princess. You've defied the expectations of your people. You've rejected those who were worthy of you. Now, the price for your defiance is here. Nathan felt the weight of the situation crashing down on him. The Galactic Council, the most powerful governing body in the galaxy, had sent their enforcers to punish Kara for her actions. But something about the android's words didn't sit right with him. This wasn't just about power. There was something deeply personal in the android's tone, something darker.